Maverick News, the antivirus program for your mind. And now, the Freedom Reporters.
Welcome back to the Maverick News Channel, everyone. Great to have everybody here for another Maverick News special broadcast. We will be providing more live coverage tonight of the fallout from the Trump attempted assassination in Pennsylvania yesterday. We have a star-studded panel to analyze and share thoughts with you tonight. We may also be able to go to the phones, and that'll give you an opportunity to weigh in on the conversation as well. We'll see how things go, but Kevin Michelizzi will be here. Joseph's going to be here. Brendan Kennedy is potentially going to make an appearance here tonight. I'm pretty sure he'll be around at some point, so keep your eyes peeled for him, and keep your eyes peeled for this. We'll be right back. More to come.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, let's bring Kevin in. Hello, sir. How are you tonight?
Well, hello. Doing okay.
Good. People have been asking for you. They missed you. Haven't been around for a week or maybe week and a half, something like that. So good to have you here. And specifically, they want your thoughts on what's going on with this Trump assassination attempt. I'm eager to hear what your take is on it as well, because what I've been hearing is it's a Zionist cabal working with Pinky and the Brain and to take over the world. So it's something like that. Oh, and the CIA with Mossad. They're all working together.
Of course. And don't forget that, a week or so ago, after the debate in a news conference, Biden told his supporters that they have to put a target on Trump. So obviously, I've actually identified the actual shooter, and I have a picture of him.
Well, in a roundabout way, yeah.
He thinks he managed to shoot Putin in the ear.
Oh boy.
Putin, president of Ukraine.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, oh my. Actually, I think it was midweek last week. Somebody sent me like a video, a parody, satire of Joe Biden. Who was it? It was Putin. Putin was shooting Biden in all these different venues. And then he was and then he was falling down the stairs and stuff. That's what it was. It wasn't the other way around. But anyway. So, what are your initial thoughts after the events of yesterday?
My initial thoughts are things I'm willing to put my thumb on and say this is the evidence I see is it was not a pre-set up assassination attempt. I actually found some mathematicians who did the math on if this could have been a staged assassination. So let's get that one out of the way first. So they determined the distance of where the shooter was, 120 meters away. and the distance between your ear and the center of your brain being 15 centimeters. And the error of angle that they calculated for this shot was 0.0716 degrees. That means, the error angle is so small that a factor like wind, the type of bullet it is, the heat even could, if the guy was breathing when he shot, snipers are trained to always pull the trigger on their out breath. And all of these things could affect that angle much more than that. So this was not staged by anyone. So let's get those conspiracy guys out of the, out of the mix to begin with. So I can say that for a fact. The other thing, I don't know if you have video of this queued up, but, I probably have it here. I have one from behind, but let me see if I've... Yeah, I've got one here. Let's let it upload. The guys inside, I actually clipped this from an analyst that I disagree with considerably. And
it's sideways.
It's
no wonder
sideways.
He missed.
Yeah, that's why he missed. And it doesn't appear to be playing either.
What was the clip of? What?
It's actually of the shot and the guys actually the Secret Service guys doing their job. So let me... Oh, heck.
Well, here, why don't I bring up,
Why don't
just so we can kind of go back to
bring
it
it
while
up?
you get that ready, I'll show you the clip of, the mayhem from yesterday. Again.
This probably is the same thing I was looking for.
Maybe, I'm not sure.
And this picks up a little bit, I think, on what Alex was talking about. What will Donald Trump
CBC.
say? Again, back to rallies that I've attended and rallies that we've all seen on television over the course of years now. We've seen him in an animated fashion, when a demonstrator rises up, right? Get him the hell out of there, right? Things like that, that kind of language that Trump has used. And at other times, in other circumstances, the kind of language that goes down the path toward violence. How will Trump respond to this verbally? What will he tell the MAGA crowd
they're afraid
about
of
how
him
he is, about what he thinks about what has happened? What will they think? To where Steve and Alex are in Milwaukee.
Yeah, enough of that. That's illustrating the CBC mentality here in Canada, where they're blaming Trump for this, and yeah, you know what? They probably should be afraid, because he's probably pretty pissed now. Now he's really pissed, and for how many years now have they been calling him Hitler and a Nazi and accusing him of all these heinous things, making him, dehumanizing him to the point where they're really encouraging people to go and shoot the demon, right? And what happens? And now they're like, oh, better be careful now. He's probably going to come out and say, terrible things that he's going to say, them guys tried to shoot me. What we're going to do about it? Well, yeah, he's pissed. I'd be pissed too. I am pissed, actually, kind of.
Well, everyone focuses on Trump in this, and reality is the only reason he survived is a quick tilt of his head at the last moment, or it probably would have gone into his skull, or the opposite could be true. It could have missed his ear. So, by the way he tilts his head, I'd say he prevented it going into his skull at some point. Would it have been a deadly shot? We don't know. But the Western media they've taken a lot of crap over this in the United States as well, reporting that, Trump was, he left the rally early after he fell down. And, I think the news kind of took an unfair hit on that. Those were very early reports. And, they didn't want to be reporting what was going on without a confirmation of what was going on. So they've since changed their headlines. I have shots of those original headlines. They did change them. So, a lot of people are seeing this as, proof that they knew it was coming and they were trying to hide it from the public. Something like this, we know the mainstream media can be stupid at times, but something this big, it wouldn't be possible to hide. So,
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I was on here. I actually was on with this live before mainstream media was reporting on it.
yeah,
I really was. I had to jump off because it's a complicated technical thing. Um, Everything, all the settings were wrong, so people weren't finding the broadcast properly. They were, because it was set up for another subject. So I had to end the broadcast after about 20 minutes and then reset it so we could go back live again. But I had the thing live. So, but the point that I'm making is, last night, all through the broadcasts, the two of them, I was getting information on the fly, trying to digest it, trying to make sense of it. And so, if you were to watch what I was saying last night, yeah, I went from it appears there may have been shots fired at the event. Yes, there are shots. This is him. It appears as though he may have been hit. He reaches behind his neck. I didn't know. So I was trying to be accurate with everything I was saying and not jump to conclusions. So that's the case with every legitimate news outlet. You're always waiting for facts before you jump to conclusions.
yeah. And I'm seeing a lot of the analysts out there right now doing the same thing. It could be that the Secret Service fell down on the job and didn't have it properly covered. However, number one, we haven't been on site to see everything there. We've seen what the news has shown us. We've seen what some analysts say. We have not seen the actual operational plan for this. A lot of people think that the Secret Service didn't plan well enough in advance. Now, this would have been planned, weeks in advance. They knew where he was going. The Secret Service would have assigned a team to go out, surveil the area, find out what the vantage points were, where Trump would be. And they actually did a good job of setting him up with protection of 3 buildings behind him on the stage. And where they potentially missed was where these warehouses were. Now, it could be that they felt that the counter-strike team had a good view of those roofs, so it wasn't necessary to post somebody there. I don't know. This is what the Secret Service's investigation will really take a look at to see if there was a failure there. But a lot of people think that the only people there were the Secret Service, and it was their sole responsibility. The Secret Service, when they find out let's just take this incident, but any candidate that they're protecting or any president that they're protecting, when they know where they're going, they have to coordinate with local police. So it may be going to the governor and asking for help from the state police. It would be the local city police if it's in a city, the sheriff's department. So in that short period of 2 to 3 weeks, they need to bring everybody up to speed on that operational plan and what their assigned duties are. And that's tough. You don't know the quality of the men that you're working with or women. Maybe some of them are more junior officers. They go in and they say, for our plan for this candidate to be here, we need this many people. And, maybe they got that, maybe they didn't. But the Secret Service is a pretty small force. They can't do it on their own. Now, there's been reports that Trump requested more Secret Service coverage and was denied it. I haven't been able to verify that. Maybe the Secret Service felt they didn't need it because they had enough local law enforcement involved. And,
Yeah, I've heard those same kinds of reports, but I have to say that these are questions that immediately came to mind for me. Why was that roof not secured? Why how could someone possibly get up on that roof without being noticed, and something being done about it? Here's an image of what appears to be a ladder on the leading up to the roof that was used apparently by the shooter, uh and we're told, because we've had witnesses uh verify this. They said, we've heard people say that they tried to warn the cops, that in fact they did 3 or 4 minutes before the actual shooting, and I don't know why something wasn't done about that guy on the roof. But
let's
it's easy
take
to be an
another look
armchair
at this.
quarterback, right?
Yeah, let's take another look at this building, though. If it is a ladder and where the guy climbed up, you see the parking lot. So these are on the far side. Trump is on the opposite side of these buildings.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see there's passageways between them. So it could be, was the guy hiding there for hours ahead of time? You've got trees in front of there. So I think somebody probably in the hours leading up to this should have noticed somebody with a ladder and a rifle climbing behind the trees and up.
Mm-hmm.
However, when you look at the location where the shooter was and how these buildings sit, the roofs are like this, they're peaked. So we've got the interview. Let's take the guy who was interviewed by the BBC, and he, witnesses aren't reliable. He started out with, he saw the guy climbing up there and he notified police right away. And, it was about 2 minutes later, the shots were fired. Well, as he continued talking, that 2 minutes became 4 minutes, then it became 6 minutes. So this is how reliable witnesses are. Also, when he went up, he was on, let's say Trump is on this side. The guy was on this side. And the statement was made by an eyewitness that the police could not see him because he was behind this peak. So the sharpshooting team. So this counter strike team could not see him over the peak until he climbed over the peak to take the shot. So, if there was a fault with the Secret Service or the local authorities they were working with, it would not be covering those buildings. Now, was it a fault of the Secret Service? We don't know. We haven't seen the operational plan. Lots of potential failure points in there, and that's what they'll look at. But we can tell just by the shots that were taken. These guys take a lot of guff. Now, let's keep in mind, these are local police. They're sharpshooters, highly trained. If they're going to be doing a presidential event like this, they actually have to go to special training. And everyone's knocking these guys. They say, well, look, this one guy, he's just sitting there watching the guy. Now, the way these teams work is one guy will be the guy prepared to shoot, which is the guy laying down. The other guy would normally have his binoculars and would be sighting. And at this point, we've got one still picture from a single moment in time where people are saying, well, look, his finger's not even on the trigger. You can't really see if the guy that's laying down, he's in a position to take a shot. You can't see if his finger is on the trigger or not. The other guy could have put his binoculars down and was just going for his gun, meaning they had identified him and were going to take the shots. So again, we don't know enough. People are making a lot of assumptions on this deal. And, the other thing is everybody in these operational plans are told, this is your responsibility. Here's your little box. So the police that were told, it very well could be that their responsibility was to radio it to the Secret Service guys or to the shooters, the counter strike guys, and not to leave his post. Because you could have had a civilian climbing up there to get a better look with his binoculars. You start sending a bunch of guys running in. You could have somebody innocent killed. You could end up with a police officer killed because now you've got multiple people up there. And because of the sequence of the shots, it's very likely that there was no pause. If they did not try to identify him until the shooter had taken the shots, you would have heard the initial 5 or 6 shots, whatever they're saying there is. I've heard different numbers. And then you would have heard a pause, and then you would have heard the snipers take their shots. You didn't hear that. Those shots were almost immediate. So that means they had already identified him. They saw him on the roof. They had to calculate distance, wind speed, temperature, everything else, and that takes time. So just how quickly they took those shots after the shooter shot at Trump, they already had him in sight. They were ready to shoot, and did, lethally. So, Brendan, howdy.
Howdy, Mr. Michelizzi, Mr. Rick Walker, good evening.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
I assume you've been listening a little bit?
A little bit.
Yeah. So I think these snipers are taking a beating for actually doing their job and doing it well. They could not see this guy until he actually went over the peak. They had been notified about where he was, but they couldn't act, and they've calculated most of their calculations by that point. So the whole thing of, they were just sitting there watching the guy shoot at Trump is fallacy, total lack of knowledge of how all this works.
And they want to be 100% sure that they're taking the correct action when they decide to pull the trigger and kill someone. So
yeah,
it's not
an easy job. Yeah, and these guys operate on a green light. They do not have to get permission from anybody to shoot. They, on their own, they can target the guy, shoot, without asking a supervisor, the Secret Service, nobody.
Yeah. So,
and the shots
Brendan,
were too quick.
Yeah. What were your initial thoughts? This is one of those events in history where people will look back and remember where they were the day that, President Trump was shot. Tell me what your experience was yesterday when you learned of this.
Well, I gotta say, I wasn't shocked at all. Like, you guys have already talked about a number of things where, you have comedians that made paper mache bust of his head all bloodied up. And so, people have been talking about offing Trump for a long time. And so it was always a matter of when was it going to happen as opposed to if it's going to happen. So I wasn't shocked at all when I first heard it. It wasn't surprising. It's very miraculous, I have to say. This is going to be one for the textbooks for sure. It's going to be right up there with Ronald Reagan and other presidents that have survived being shot. Just absolutely wow. And Kevin, I did hear you say this earlier. If he would have moved his head a millimeter one way, he would have been toast.
Yeah. or not
Yeah.
moved it.
Or not moved it.
Yes. Yeah.
It's
was
a
that
miracle.
I
close, it
do have
was.
excuse me. I do have a video that most people haven't seen. Everyone sees the shots from the front. I have the video from behind him, the rear stage.
Mm.
So let's gander at that. I'm just having no luck with video tonight, Rick.
Oh, here. Well, I don't have it loaded here, so it's on your end. You have to hit the play button on your end, or it's not going to work.
Yeah,
I
she
have
just
seen
isn't
this
playing.
actually.
Yeah, it's not playing for me.
Maybe
It
not
says it's
enough.
playing, but obviously it's not. Yeah.
Well, what I have is I do have the front view again that we can share with people to show you what happened yesterday. This is Butler, Pennsylvania, and it happened at 6:11
And then the worst
p.m.
president in the
Eastern
history
time.
of our country took over. And look what happened to our country. Probably 20 million people. And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
Move his spear. Hold. When you're ready. On you. Ready. Move. Up. Move. Go.
That's the
Yeah,
way
so
it
they
happened
didn't.
yesterday.
Yeah. So, one thing I want you to note is, I've talked to a couple of buddies who are former Secret Service, and they said Trump did exactly what they would hope somebody would do after being shot, because you cannot predict what somebody will do when they're shot. Often they go into shock, they just stand there, they don't know what's going on. And I was also told that, Trump would not have been trained to do what he did, which was to hit the ground. Now, I don't know that for a fact. I don't know if he was trained or not. But you notice the banner across the front of the stage at his foot level. If you see the rear video, you can actually see the glare on it. There is a bulletproof shield there. And what they want somebody to do if they're shot at is they want them to hit the stage so they're behind that shield. And that is used on every stage that the Secret Service is involved in for the protection of the person. What they didn't show in that particular video is the reaction of the Secret Service after the shooting. And they acted very professionally. They did their job. They're trained at that point of getting him up and moving him to a car to put their heads in place of his head. And you'll see that, in a lot of the videos, that's exactly what they do. They surround him, they cover him. We did have one short Secret Service agent who wasn't tall enough to cover Trump's head. So you've got another one with his arm up behind her. She took some flack because she couldn't holster her weapon. She dropped her sunglasses, picked them up, things like that. We're all human. We make mistakes. But that's why they have a whole group of them surrounding him and taking him and putting him in the van that they took him away in. So, and of course, they'd already been told the shooter was down. So people are questioning, well, if he was shot, why were they, being so rough and hustling him off like that? Well, just because they knew one shooter was down doesn't mean there wasn't another one. And this is where I'm going to take a whack at the CIA theorists. It's kind of like when they talk about Putin poisoning somebody. If the FSB wants you dead, you'll be dead. If the CIA wants you dead, you'll be dead. If it was a CIA operation and they put some, young punk on a roof to take the fall for it, and it was actually some CIA sniper somewhere taking the shots, they would have hit. We had the guy who died who was behind Trump, and you could see it in the video you had. He was off a bit from Trump's right side. So one of that guy's bullets was off quite a bit from Trump to hit him. So, I don't think the guy was that experienced with a weapon. I've seen reports he was using an AK-47 and his parents have been bought it. I'm going with the Larry Johnson analysis on this. The sounded more like a 22 long caliber. I don't know. Again, I don't know.
Well, the authorities have said it was an AR-15.
Okay.
That's what the official word is from investigators, and that the weapon was purchased legally by his father. So that's where they've traced it. There are also reports tonight that they went to the home and they found some explosive devices. I don't
I
know
did
about
see that. Yeah.
I don't know if that's
Yeah.
true. Is that true?
I don't know. And the report that I saw that said that had said it was an AK-47 bought by his father illegally. So again, we're taking our source of truth from the mainstream media.
Well,
Maybe
that information about the AR-15, that I'm confident with that. And I am confident as well that it was purchased by his father. The explosive stuff, I'm not 100% sure on, but I can check. Go ahead, Brendan.
I don't have as much slack for the media about a lot of the reporting, such as declaring that Trump had fallen on one of them had said, or that there was a disruption at the rally. That, looking at the footage and seeing what's going on, they have reporters on the ground there. They knew exactly what was happening. There was probably close to like 2 million people watching that stream when it happened as well. I'm gonna say, like, clearly it was a shooting. Like, what are you waiting for confirmation for? And like, those headlines were just absolutely ridiculous. Like, couldn't get over how ridiculous they were.
Yeah, so I did find information on it, and they found the explosive devices in the shooter's car. That's where they found them.
I'd heard that as well.
so.
Yeah, and I'm confident in that information.
Well, I'm not necessarily confident in it. I would say there's a high likelihood, but how confident can you be based on an official report that's being put out to news media and different news sources are interpreting it differently?
Well, I wouldn't say that these are not, well, let me put it to you this way. Immediately last night, while this was happening, one of our regular viewers posted a link to information about somebody about who the shooter was supposed to be, but it wasn't the person that it is. It was Mark Violets. It was, yeah, this. So here's what it was. Let me show you.
Clickbait.
It wasn't this kind of information. Okay.
Clickbait.
This is not what I'm quoting. Here it is. Based on posts like this. Per the Butler Police Department, the Trump shooter has been arrested at the scene and is being identified as Mark Violets, an Antifa member. Okay, so that's not really the guy's name. That information never came from Butler Police. This is just a complete fabrication. And yet this was, bam, out there immediately, then it was being shared in our chat, which was leading people over to, and I hate to even call this an actual newspaper, the Kansas City Defender. And I'm like, ooh, there we go. There's a credible news source. What it looks legit, but I looked closer and it's not exactly what I would call a newspaper. This is a left wing, far left, super progressive propaganda thing. At best, it's a newsletter for radical left wing activists. Right wing accounts launch Mark Violet's Antifa conspiracy in light of Trump assassination attempt. And so basically what they were doing immediately upon that other stuff being posted is this is sort of like a reverse double twisted psyop, screw with your head thing, where they're putting this out, discrediting the initial post, but they're actually part of the psyop as far as I can tell. And as I went through this whole publication, yeah, they are based in the United States, but they're just a huge bunch of red flags where it's just so clear that they're just trying to be disruptive, cause chaos. They put this information out there. It's just to cause people to question, sow seeds of doubt. And then I went through a lot of the stories that they post, and it's inflammatory language. It's just that's what there's so many of these things out there, and I bet you they get government grants.
Well, I'll tell you guys, it's a good lesson for everybody. Never trust a tweet that doesn't have a link in it, because people always love taking a snapshot of a news article and then say something crazy and outlandish and untrue, and then they don't have any links to it, and you just find out the whole thing was just a lie anyway. So,
and then the guy in that thing, he's actually now going to sue, or so we're told. He's not. It's some guy from another country. His name is Marco Viola or something. It's not his real name. And I don't know, maybe he's even part of it for all I know, or not part of it. I have no idea. But all I know is as soon as it was in the chat, I was like, well, what is that? I better check that. And as soon as I saw it, I said, well, that I wouldn't put a lot of stock in that. We're going to need to get more information.
Well, it's even more than if it doesn't have a link, because even if it has a link, I saw a video earlier today of a guy supposedly with the same name, long hair, glasses, and he did this video saying, well, my name is, I hate Republicans, I hate Trump, and you got the wrong guy. And just a publicity monger, potentially again looking for suing news organizations, because some news organizations did put photos from him out and used him, his pictures to identify him. Now, supposedly he had the same name. Don't know for sure, but, and there was a link to that, the guy sitting in his car doing it.
I have that video. Yeah. I'm reluctant to run it because I'm afraid we'll get banned on YouTube if I share it with people. But
don't.
Yeah, I have a copy of it. It was sent to me, shortly after the shooting. The fact that he did it, that came out so quickly, though, that made me kind of wonder about a few things. Nevertheless, I don't think it's the same guy.
No, it's not the same guy. I think I've got the picture of the actual guy that was identified. It's probably
here,
on my
actually.
phone.
I have footage of him.
I've got it here.
Thomas Crooks right there.
Yep.
I have footage of him in a BlackRock commercial.
Yep.
Yeah, he was in a BlackRock commercial for a teacher.
Yeah. Let's run that. I've got it here someplace. I have that. One moment, please.
Yeah. So the only thing that even looks familiar between this guy and the other guy is the fact that he's wearing glasses.
Yeah. Ugh.
So while you're looking for that, Rick,
okay, I've got
David,
the BlackRock commercial. I haven't watched the whole thing. What is it actually a BlackRock commercial? Because let's watch it and then we'll figure out what it is.
My name is Brian DeLallo. I teach AP and honors economics in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Financial well-being to me is knowing that I can be free to do the things that I love to do. I hope when I retire someday, they say that guy made this place a special place to come to school and give as much as he could to help the community. My name is Brian DeLallo.
So
Pennsylvania,
where-
things that I love.
Where was he?
I hope when I
I think he comes up right about here. There he
There
is.
he
That's
is.
the guy.
There he is.
So he's
Yep.
in the commercial. I hope he got paid for that. I mean, for the commercial. There it is. That's kind of weird.
Maybe that's how Dad bought the weapon. Since anyway,
Use your BlackRock
so
money to buy an AR.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah.
because it's a BlackRock commercial, that's the super evil mega corporation, just adds to
Yeah.
the whole narrative, right?
Yeah,
It does. I kind of think it's a far stretch considering to be an extra in a commercial like that. Like, there's a process in doing it. I highly doubt that they were looking for candidates to subvert into MK Ultra to have a plan to
course.
assassinate Donald Trump.
And because the New York Times is reporting this piece of information, of course, now no one will believe it. Explosive materials found in would-be assassin's car. So if it's in the New York Times, you know it's fake. Well, I don't know about that, but the mainstream media's lost so much credibility since the pandemic that, yeah, people don't know what's up and what's down anymore, and you can't blame them.
yeah. I don't know. That's the point where I'll start saying, I don't know. Is the deep state involved? I don't know. I'm willing to say that, it wasn't a planned attack by the Democrats. It wasn't a planned attack by, it wasn't staged by the Trump campaign. The officers who surrounded him after he was shot did their job 100%. They did it, and they did it well. The counter-strike team, I think they did their job well. They were on it. I think everyone played their positions. I think the weak point again is, should they have had somebody on those buildings or stationed in front of them? We don't know. Maybe they did, and somebody in local law enforcement fell down on the job. Just pure luck that he moved his head when he did.
Interesting, your take on that. Go ahead, Brandon, and then I'm going to run this little clip from Sebastian Gorka to kind of give get some counterbalance to what Kevin just said, and we'll get you guys to comment on it. But go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's a miracle. It's like this is beyond luck. This is a bloody miracle. Is what it is.
Yeah, well, see, I have to agree with a lot of what Sebastian Gorka is about to say in this clip, because I do agree that politics has become so divisive, so inflamed in America, and the Democrats have done so much to dehumanize Donald Trump that they literally did, in many ways, put a target on the back of his head.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that at all.
About 12 hours past the event last night, almost. Additional things, analysis. The Secret Service is culpable, and so are the Democrats. That's the two take-homes. And I'm fed up. I'm not listening to conservatives who say, oh, it's time for kumbaya, calm down. No. We, conservatives, don't have to do anything. We're innocent. We haven't dehumanized the other side. We haven't called Joe Biden Hitler every day in and out. We haven't said the threat to democracy is if the American people choose their own president. So no, some of these people are my friends, but you got to stop it. And you got to understand who's to blame. Number one, the Secret Service. Utter catastrophic failure. From the fact they kept President Trump in the kill box after the shooting happened, not knowing how badly he was injured, instead of whisking him away to the nearest hospital in an armored vehicle, exactly as they did when President Reagan was shot by Hinckley. It's just a standard procedure, and they messed it up. On top of having women who aren't even as tall as President Trump, who can't actually block him, and protect him from fire, one of whom couldn't reholster her weapon 5 times as they were putting him in the vehicle. What is this? Where do they find these people? Is this a DEI hire? It's inexcusable, okay? If you're a personal security detail, your body has to be large enough to literally catch the bullets for your principal. That's why in the UK, we call bodyguards bullet catchers. It's that serious. And then to not clear the only building that has line of sight within 200 yards of the stage, I'm sorry, a 12-year-old knows to do this. How that happened, inexcusable. The female director of the Secret Service, I demand, has to resign today. That's the beginning. Likewise, the FBI is investigating this assassination attempt. The FBI that raided Mar-a-Lago and planted evidence that we now know, thanks to Judge Cannon, brought in those classified cover sheets to photograph and use as props and leak to the Washington Post. That's the agency that's going to investigate this. Never, never, never. Bring in the marshals, bring in the DOD, I don't care. But the FBI is corrupt and cannot investigate this. Who's to blame? The Democrats. From Maxine Waters saying, harass members of the Trump cabinet if you see them, to Kamala Harris normalizing violence by raising bail money for BLM arsonists. On down, on down. Pelosi saying, you gotta punch Biden, you gotta punch President Trump in the face, to Biden saying what, 6 days ago, to Democrat donors, we gotta put a bullseye on President Trump. We don't have to do anything. The Democrats have to do something, and somebody has to get control of them before this happens again.
Yeah. Well, Rick, I don't disagree that the Democratic Party has blame in this. I mean, yeah, they've dehumanized him. However, they kept him in the kill box. That is a stupid statement. They had him on the ground behind the bulletproof barrier, which is where they want him, until they were notified that the shooter was down. And then they got up, surrounded him. They took him to the van, just like they were supposed to do. I mean, we're talking minutes of time. So to criticize the Secret Service agents around him not doing their job, that was just bull crap, which is what I don't like about this guy. I agree with him that the woman agent, I already mentioned her, too short. It required another agent to put his arm up to protect Trump's head. No, her fumbling with her gun, absolutely she did. But keep in mind, he was already in the van. She was outside holstering her gun. So should she have been able to do it smoother? Well, under pressure, we all deal differently. I can't justify what she did, but she was already at a position where she didn't have to worry about his safety because he was already in the van. So, yeah, you can take some of it and say, yeah, you agree with it, but you can't take 100% of it. Was the Secret Service responsible? We don't know because we didn't see the operational plan. We didn't know what was supposed to be where. And, if we knew that, we may be able to point fingers and say, this is where they failed. Those ones right around him 100% did their job.
What do you think, Brandon?
Well, I think that there has already been reports about the Secret Service doing DEI hiring for some time where they set up a number, I think it was 30% or something like that, 30% women in the workforce, which, I mean, I don't really care. If you can do the job, you can do the job. But if that agent was alone with Trump in a scary situation where she had to drag him out of a situation, would she be able to do that? It looks like a DEI hire to me. Looks like a DEI hire to me, but
which is typical Biden.
Typical Biden, absolutely. And he makes a really good point about the FBI. The FBI is conflict of interest. That's exactly what this is. They have it out for Trump, and now they're going to be the ones that investigate. And something interesting recently happened where the Nashville shooter, there was a lawsuit to have their manifesto released, and the courts decided that due to a copyright issue, they weren't going to release the Nashville shooter's manifesto. So is that going to be what happens with this situation when they're investigating this guy? That they're going to keep us all in the dark and not tell us anything about what happened? And then we'll put freedom of information request out and they'll say, sorry, it's copyrighted material. We can't release that to the public. Seems kind of, I don't know how much I would put stock in the FBI doing a good job on this.
Yeah. I agree.
So Biden is supposed to address the nation in about 4 minutes. So give it an hour or two after he has his nap.
And his ice cream.
Hard to tell.
So I hear a lot of people also confusing the Secret Service with the FBI. Like Brandon says, the FBI will investigate this. Can we rely on them? Let's keep in mind the FBI actually reports to the Attorney General and the Director of National Intelligence, whereas the Secret Service is a different agency and they're part of Homeland Security.
Yeah.
So Border Patrol, hey. Customs.
That's definitely two different things there. That they're not the same, not at all.
Now here's video of the sniper taking the shot. Apparently, here we go.
That's when I left office. That was the lowest point, and that comes right from the government services, comes right out of Border Patrol. Take a look at that. So that arrow is the lowest amount of illegal immigration ever in recorded history into our country. And then the worst president in the history of our country took over. And look what happened to our country. Probably 20 million people. And that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
They ended that video early. They took the shot.
Yeah, they did, didn't they? So that's been edited.
Yeah.
And I can't say that that's even accurate because you could shift the time, shift the audio track. Who knows what they've done to that video? And it's all very blurry too, very low resolution. Now, maybe they've cropped in so that it gets pixelated, but I'm not buying that as a legitimate source of evidence.
Yeah, I agree. With all the cell phones they had around and everything else, there's been audio analysis done, and the sniper shots were immediately after the first 4 or 5 shots from the sniper. I should say the Counter-Strike team shots were a few seconds after the shooter's shots. So to say that they didn't take the shots is wishful thinking.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's a tough gig, man.
Yeah.
Working as as a Secret Service agent, a sniper, making that split-second decision on whether or not to take a kill shot. I would not want to be the guy in those shoes. You make one mistake, your career's over, maybe your life. Because you're going to be held accountable for any mistake in the most serious way. Here's the video of that female Secret Service agent who was having trouble holstering her weapon. thoughts?
She's in shock.
Yeah. And
She's in
we
shock.
we don't know how we would react in that same situation. But he was already in the vehicle, and she was no longer in a position to be protecting him. So I'll give her a little credit there, but I guarantee she got some kind of a chewing out from somebody about that.
Well, they probably even gave her time off.
Yeah.
You have to go see a shrink now.
Yeah. So this is a perspective a lot of people don't get.
Oh,
so
let's go to the White House. Here we go. Going to the White House. Here we go. Should be up now.
Yeah, we will begin shortly, sometime in the next
he's up
45
live.
minutes.
My fellow Americans.
Here we go.
I want to speak to you tonight about the need for us to lower the temperature in our politics. And to remember, while we may disagree, we are not enemies. We're neighbors, we're friends, co-workers, citizens, and most importantly, we're fellow Americans. We must stand together. Yesterday's shooting at Donald Trump's rally in Pennsylvania calls on all of us to take a step back. Take stock of where we are, how we go forward from here. Thankfully, former Trump is not seriously injured. I spoke with him last night. I'm grateful. He's doing well, and Jill and I keep him and his family in our prayers. We also extend our deepest condolences to the family of the victims who was killed. Corey was a husband, a father, a volunteer firefighter, a hero, sheltering his family from those bullets. We should all hold his family and all those injured in our prayers. Earlier today, I spoke about an ongoing investigation. We do not know the motive of the shooter yet. We don't know his opinions or affiliations. We don't know whether he had help or support or if he communicated with anyone else. Law enforcement professionals, as I speak, are investigating those questions. Tonight, I want to speak to what we do know. A former president was shot, an American citizen killed, while simply exercising his freedom to support the candidate of his choosing. We cannot, we must not go down this road in America. We've traveled it before throughout our history. Violence has never been the answer. Whether it's with members of Congress of both parties being targeted and shot, or a violent mob attacking the Capitol on January 6th, or a brutal attack on the spouse of former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, or information and intimidation on election officials, or the kidnapping plot against the sitting governor, or an attempted assassination on Donald Trump. There is no place in America for this kind of violence, or for any violence ever. Period. No exceptions. We can't allow this violence to be normalized. You know, the political record in this country has gotten very heated. It's time to cool it down. We all have a responsibility to do that. Yes, we have deeply felt strong disagreements. The stakes in this election are enormously high. I've said it many times that the choice in this election we make in this election is going to shape the future of America and the world for decades to come. I believe that with all my soul. I know that millions of my fellow Americans believe it as well. And some have a different view as to the direction our country should take. Disagreement is inevitable in American democracy. It's part of human nature. But politics must never be a literal battlefield, and God forbid, a killing field. I believe politics ought to be an arena for peaceful debate, to pursue justice, to make decisions guided by the Declaration of Independence and our Constitution. We stand for an America, not of extremism and fury, but of decency and grace. All of us now face the time of testing as the election approaches. And the higher the stakes, the more fervent the passions become. This places an added burden on each of us to ensure that no matter how strong our convictions, we must never descend into violence. The Republican convention will start tomorrow. I have no doubt they'll criticize my record and offer their own vision for this country. I'll be traveling this week making the case for our record and the vision, my vision of the country, our vision. I'll continue to speak out strongly for our democracy, stand up for our Constitution and the rule of law, to call for action at the ballot box. No violence on our streets. That's how democracy should work. We debate and disagree. We compare and contrast the character of the candidates, the records, the issues, the agenda, the vision for America. But in America, we resolve our differences at the battle box. You know, that's how we do it, at the battle box, not with bullets. The power to change America should always rest in the hands of the people, not in the hands of a would-be assassin. You know, the path forward through competing visions of the campaign should always be resolved peacefully, not through acts of violence. You know, we're blessed to live in the greatest country on earth, and I believe that with every soul, every power of my being. So tonight, I'm asking every American to recommit, to make America, think about it. What's made America so special? Here in America, everyone must be treated with dignity and respect, and hate must have no safe harbor. Here in America, we need to get out of our silos, where we only listen to those with whom we agree, where misinformation is rampant, where foreign actors fan the flames of our division to shape the outcomes consistent with their interests, not ours. Let's remember, here in America, while unity is the most elusive of all goals right now, nothing is more important for us now than standing together. We can do this. You know, from the beginning, our founders understood the power of passion. So they created democracy that gave reason and balance a chance to prevail over brute force. That's the American we must be. An American democracy where arguments are made in good faith. An American democracy where the rule of law is respected. An American democracy where decency, dignity, fair play aren't just quaint notions, but living, breathing realities. We owe that to those who come before us, to those who gave their lives for this country. We owe that to ourselves. We owe it to our children and our grandchildren. Look, let's never lose sight of who we are. Let's remember we are the United States of America. There is nothing beyond our capacity when we do it together. So God bless you all, and may God protect our troops.
Okay, so I know that you guys might not agree on a lot of things. Welcome, Joseph, but I think probably universally right
Hey,
now you all
Joseph.
need something to settle your stomachs, tums.
Yeah, you know, I couldn't help initially to notice that the whole time he was looking off to his left reading the teleprompter. I remember when, you know, they gave good, strong statements and they looked at the camera, but he's squinting and reading. So, you know, that took away from it. And
Why
of course,
would he be looking to the left though? Because if you have it, like teleprompters are mounted on the camera so that it looks like you're looking into the lens when you're reading off a prompter.
A good prompter is.
Yeah.
I can't answer that, but he was reading off of the left. And of course, the minute you plug Joseph in, I took a look at that woman doing the sign language, and I do not know sign language in the least little bit. But all I could think about is the last show I was on with him and how I would like to interpret what she was doing, you know. I started laughing, and it was inappropriate at the time.
That's the sign language for, you know, taxation.
Yeah, okay.
See, that's what a prompter looks like. It has special glass on the front, and then they put it like it has reverse text, and then it reflects up onto a mirror, and then it is the right way around to read, and then the camera is mounted behind that hood thing, and it shoots through the reflective glass. I know because I actually made one for the studio here. I don't have it set up, but I made one a long time, a homemade one, and it shoots through it.
That's a good news studio prompter.
Yeah.
But candidates usually use that glass prompter.
That's when they're giving speeches. That's true. Yes. Yeah. But that's because they don't have a camera mounted in front of them. They have to do this to the audience. And what they do is they have, because of seen this too, covering so many news conferences and events, but they have the same script running on multiple prompters, usually to the left and the right, and there's sometimes one in the middle, and then they can look either direction and still pick up the prompter. But in the White House, it's a camera mounted in front of a desk, and he just reads off the prompter, unless they're idiots and they mounted it to
they
the
are
side.
idiots.
Well,
Yeah, and
that
he
could be
wasn't
too,
doing
yeah.
a good. He wasn't doing a very good job of reading it either. I mean, it was
No, he still
again
screwed it up.
stumbling, mumbling, fumbling. He had time to rehearse that speech, but yet that's what we got.
Yeah, he's
Gentlemen.
the former Trump. Did you hear him say
Gentlemen.
that? He's the former Trump.
He's the former Trump. Gentlemen, do you think when he said period, he was just reading like the period in the speech?
And we know former Trump. What he actually meant was former Putin, president of Ukraine.
That's right. I told you, man, this whole thing, it's just a conspiracy involving a giant cabal trying to take over the world with the help of Pinky and the Brain. I told you at the beginning of the broadcast.
And Pinky and the Brain are in cahoots with the lizard people, and they brainwashed this guy so that he would shoot President Trump through MK Ultra.
Yes, using his AK-47. Joseph, what was your initial reaction? Again, it's one of those moments when in history where you always remember where you were when you found out or heard the news. So share your experience yesterday when you learned of this.
My focus ever since the event has been trying to tamp down the nuttiness, I dropped a piece on Before It's News pretty much right after or early today. How about we stick with 100% verifiable facts? They are enough of the Trump assassination attempt. We don't need to add on nuttiness. It's not needed. But yet, like I say over and over, there are QAnoners, and I'm happy to be part of the QAnon or Q Army crowd, but there are also QAnutters that, X and Y would suffice, but no, they don't even only go to Z, they go off the English alphabet entirely.
That's because the Russians are involved and they have 32 letters in their alphabet.
No. It's Israel or Israel. See, just ask trigger warning. It's either Israel or Israel. It's not Russia.
Of course, I've seen plenty of that. It's the Jews, of course. And one thing that was killing me, I wrote it down. Matthew Crooks, speculation, what ifs, conjecture, innuendo, right? Off the wall stuff. It's okay to mention it as long as we're clear that's what we're dealing in here. And one nut indeed said Matthew Crooks isn't actually the shooter. His handle is Jew gazing on X, and you can see him still tweeting. So it may be another Matthew Crooks or whatever, or somebody, doing whatever now, but they claim it's a Maxwell Yarick, and indeed showed a mugshot of him at prior violence at a Trump rally. It's like,
The actual Matthew Crooks was taken by submarine to Argentina, where he was unloaded.
By the CIA,
by the CIA,
is telling us right here.
And he's living in Hitler's house with him.
Exactly. All this, can we stick with the known stuff?
No,
now,
we can't.
I don't expect the Secret Service and FBI, JTTF, and marshals and BATF because supposedly there were explosives also in his car, to have a press conference every 90 minutes to talk about the latest 90 minutes of social media nuttiness. I want them indeed doing the real work of, are there other co-conspirators still potentially running around? They don't have time to come on like I am with you to shoot down all this nuttiness every 90 minutes. It's a whole new set of nuttiness.
And Kevin, I mean, you've got expertise in the area of propaganda, so I mean that in a positive way. Okay, so I mean, this is damaging, I think, to the country. It's this chaos that is created because of all the conspiracy theories that this kind of thing generates, and it just comes as part of the package automatically now when you're having I'll call it an incident, but an assassination attempt like this. What does it do to a country?
It pulls the country apart, and this is what people don't realize. I had this discussion with a young man earlier over here in Russia who made an inappropriate joke, in my opinion, and he says, well, it was just a joke. I says, but what you posted, many people looked at it and they said, really? What do you mean? And then it got propagated, and all of a sudden you're seeing it all over the place. And people look at it, they see it, their perceptions are skewed, and people don't seem to be understanding that every piece of information you take in, if you don't realize that you're being fed a lot of bull crap and you need to figure out what to throw away, it changes your perception. This is why the Department of Defense calls it perception management. So when they put stuff out, they're trying to get you to think a certain way. Now, like Joseph said, what's going on here? They don't have time to be trying to spin all this stuff or throw the garbage out, but you'll see the spin coming out like Biden. I'm not saying he wasn't sincere in what he said.
I'll say that.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Yeah,
Motion
that's
approved.
fine. I'm just using it as a point. It was
Yep.
meant to steer perception in a particular way.
Of course.
I'm not
Yeah.
at fault, knowing perfectly well that Trump supporters, MAGA supporters, are going to start pointing at it and saying, see, it's the Democrats. Biden tried to have him assassinated. They indicted him, they arrested him, they took him to court. They haven't been able to do anything else, so now they're going to try to shoot him.
Brendan, I will say this, Brendan, that Sebastian Gorka video, as much as I agreed with some of the things he was saying, I found it to be sort of passive aggressive, so that he was sort of ramping up the emotions on the MAGA side, so that he was pumping up the bass on an emotional level too. He wasn't dialing things down at all. What was your take on it?
Well, I would actually like to take a moment to respond to old Joe.
Sure.
Joe Biden should have made this speech years ago, to be honest.
Absolutely.
As
Yes.
soon as he got in office, he should have been trying. He always said, we're going to sow the divide in our country in his inaugural speech. He should have made a lot of these statements from day one, but he didn't. It was like 2 days ago, he was talking about putting a bullseye on people's heads. This is absolutely sick. It's your party that has fanned the flames of this whole entire thing. You guys need to get yourself under control. Get yourself under control.
Yeah, Brendan, I made that note right here. Remember years ago, Sarah Palin was calling for the assassination of Democrats by using a red bullseye symbol, a symbol that both parties had used decades upon decades to mean politically target. And Joseph Robinette Biden, just 4 or 5 days ago, used the exact same verbiage. Target Trump. So if Trump is responsible for January 6th, Biden needs to be arrested and charged with incitement of violence on the assassination attempt to Trump. It got to go both ways.
Yeah, and getting back to what you had asked me about the Sebastian guy there, people are going to be really angry. I don't know that guy. I'm not familiar with him, so I don't know how much rage bait he's always putting out there. But we need to at least.
He's a Trump insider, part of the the inner circle of Trump. He was there with the Trump administration. He was a regular on. I think he was on Rush Limbaugh quite a bit when Rush was alive. He's a conservative for sure, and a live streamer, podcaster, but mostly he's a political figure on the MAGA side. Yeah.
Sounds like he might have had. It sounds like he may have had a legitimate reason to be upset if he's an inner circle person, and now somebody tries to kill his friend and associate. Yeah. Like if somebody took a shot at my friend, I'd be pretty upset too. But
Sebastian Gorka used to be a somewhat reasonable, level-headed, deal it down the middle kind of person. But of late, I don't pay any attention to him on Truth and all that. He's just a hyperbolic clickbait sharer.
Is he? I haven't been paying attention. He's changed?
Yeah, he's just way over the top. It's like the QAnutter thing that I mentioned. Taking everything instead of X, you got to take it to Z or off the English alphabet entirely. It's just there's no need to do that when the reality is enough. And you look stupid, in my opinion, Sebastian, when you go so far as going overboard like that. You lose your own credibility in doing that and being hyperbolic all the time. Now, even Trump, though, right? I had this conversation with Trump lies. Trump is a celebrity. He is a TV personality. He has always engaged in hyperbole, but it is usually like exaggerating a crowd size. That's hyperbole, not really a lie. It's still rooted in a basis of reality, as opposed to what Biden says all the time, the Charlottesville lie, the this lie, the bleach lie, this lie, that lie, just no basis in reality whatsoever. So should Trump tone things down and stop the hyperbolic nonsense? Yes. But that's kind of his personality. It's a big difference than an outright lie that's complete delusion.
Well, no, Joseph. This wouldn't be a good show if I didn't disagree with you on something. I don't think Joe Biden is actually lying. I think it is just, his dementia. And what did they diagnose him with recently? Early Parkinson's. So I think it's just he doesn't remember things straight. So does that make it a lie or does it make it forgetful? I don't know.
I can give him a little grace on that, but people are feeding him the lines to continue to say, and he willingly repeats them, even though they.
Exactly.
You can see the Charlottesville Department of Transportation presser for yourself, beginning to end. I'm amazed YouTube still has it up. It's there. You can see it. And he says 3 times, I am not talking about neo-Nazis or white supremacists, but yet they peddle the lie. He is saying there are fine neo-Nazis. Out and out lie.
At 81, I wouldn't call it early Parkinson's.
It's kind of late. Yeah. No,
late onset Parkinson's.
I know someone that died at age 45 of Parkinson's. So, it is a horrible thing. My mother had dementia for like 10 years, 10, 12 years she lasted. We were amazed she lasted that long. She passed just a few years ago. So, I, I mean, anyone who's ever dealt with these things can see it. I mean, you don't have to be an MD, and I'm not here to play one on TV. It is just so obvious.
And here's this letter from Melania Trump. You know, the language, there's no way she wrote this herself. The language that they're using here, it's, and let us remember that when the time comes to look beyond the left and the right, beyond the red and the blue, we all come from families with the passion to fight for a better life together while we are here in this earthly realm. I'm like, nope, she didn't write that.
No, but
Nope.
it fits her persona.
Right.
The foreigner, foreign born, right? Outsider.
The heavenly and angelic Melania Trump of this earthly realm, swirling around, watching over President Trump. Like, this is the image that I'm getting from the flowery language that they used for this. But at least, there was wording in there that tried to dial things down a little bit.
Somebody was watching out for.
What's her original language? Maybe it would come across better if it were released in her original
Romanian?
language. I don't remember where she's from originally, so I'll have to take your word for it, Brendan.
It would have been something like Tovarish. Excuse me, Tovarish.
Yeah. She's from
This is the same Melania Trump who said she will not go to Washington if Trump is reelected. So yes, she did not write that. So hey,
politics.
I would be remiss, Rick. Actually, I'm going to call you on this one for being remiss. You didn't once ask me tonight what is being said about this in Russia.
I was going to go there. In fact, I was going to, in my head, which, I had a Biden moment. I was going to start the program kind of like that. I want to know what the Ruskies are saying about it.
And I would love to stick around for this, but I actually have to jet, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me. It was great to be able to talk about these things, and God bless everybody. We'll see you later.
Thank
Brendan,
you,
as long as it's a green jet. So
green.
Yeah, what solar panels on the wings?
Yeah.
And
Brendan,
enjoy the rest of your weekend
enjoy
the rest of your weekend with your kidlets there, Brendan.
I shall. Take care, everybody.
All right. Okay, see you, man.
See you, bro. So
yeah, go ahead.
The general public is pretty much like the general public in the United States. Biden is trying to eliminate Trump. Things like that. Putin did make an official statement that he had made a call to Trump and didn't get him, but that he wishes him a speedy recovery and gives his condolences to the family of the killed and injured man. But of course, we have to go to the Lindsey Graham of Russia, Medvedev, who his official statement is he is confident that Donald Trump will be reelected in November if they don't.
Sorry, your audio cut out there, Kevin. If they don't what? Your audio.
If they don't assassinate him first.
Right. I mean, Putin, would you expect anything less, really? I mean, pure good diplomatic language you would expect. Now, what are the Ayatollahs saying? They're the ones who will speak their mind.
Well, I am looking.
They're probably all in the streets protesting that he missed, right?
And I did look at headlines on some Russian news outlets earlier today, and I'm just checking again here. The headlines are on Sputnik. Trump shooting complicates matters for struggling Biden campaign. And another story, was Trump put in a bullseye? Photos, Donald Trump survives assassination attempt. Moscow says U.S. financed Ukraine's plot to assassinate Putin. So it's like,
Yeah. Well, it was all staged. You know, it was actually a blood tablet behind the ear with an exploding device.
I
It
had,
was
I had
fake
some
blood.
people
Did you
suggest that
see
last
that?
night. Yeah.
Did you
Yep.
see that? Yeah, that's one of the nuttinesses around the internet. It's like, oh my God. Now there is
So-
legitimate questions, obviously. That perimeter
Yes.
shouldn't have been where it was. And one Rick Grinnell was on Newsmax earlier, and I agree wholeheartedly with him. You know, speculations, what if, some of these questions are legitimate, and I think it is legitimate to ask the DEI wokeness. How far has that gone into the Secret Service? The woman that was 5'4", okay, my ex-wife, 5'4". I have no problem with a woman being on the Secret Service details, but it is stated, I don't know if true or not, again, speculation, conjecture, hearsay, that she was kicked from the Kamala detail for some reason and landed it up on this. Now, she can be wanding people coming in. I have no problem with a 6-foot Amazon woman being in the Secret Service, but I don't care if you're 5'4", female or male. That seems like a DEI hire. You should not be on a presidential or candidate detail. You need to be 6 foot to tower over the people you're the protectorate of. You can't, you know, you look at her next to Trump there was a clear line of shot over her to Trump because she was not of the right stature to be involved at that degree as the direct protectorate of a candidate. And then there's the whole RFK Jr. still being denied, because I wouldn't be surprised if they don't try and kill him also, because again, he's likely in this scenario to pull more from Biden than Trump that could cost Biden some states. So, you know, Biden, you need to get detail on RFK Jr., even though he can't conceivably win the presidency, he can and will affect this election.
What do you think, Kevin?
I said it earlier. Brendan said it earlier. She was a little short to be protecting Trump. She did her job. She protected him. But when you require another agent to put his arm up to cover the area between the top of her head and his head, she was a bit short for that detail. Does it make her unqualified? Yeah.
I don't care if that were a male that was 5'4". There has to be standards, and to be a direct protectorate like that, you need to be at least 5'10". I would prefer a minimum of 6 foot. And again, my ex-wife, 5'4", was in pretty good shape. Still cannot compare and stand up, even if in good enough shape, to a 6 foot male who then has extra leverage on that person. So she can be doing all kinds of duties, but should have been nowhere near that stage in that capacity.
So this is
I just wanted to say this, Vaughn.
Sure.
If this was a man, we would be saying the same thing. If there was a 5'4" man standing there, he did not belong on that detail.
I said it twice already. Absolutely. 5'4", you've got to have minimum requirements. A 5'4" male or female, again, can be standing at the gate, wanding people into an event. No problem. Can be wandering the perimeter with a walkie-talkie with eyes on things that somebody should have seen that guy climbing up the building, or a drone, or a
You
helicopter.
like, I've been to a Trump rally. There was pretty substantial security, and this is back in 2016, back before the pandemic. And, metal detectors, everybody going in and out, bags checked. I really enjoyed the body cavity search. Well, we didn't go quite that far, but there was pretty serious security. And yesterday, as I'm watching this, people are being very critical, but I did see cops in armor or Secret Service or whoever they were, walking around with their guns. They were on the stage immediately, kind of all over the place. They were up on the roof of buildings. Now I did get this sort of diagram map aerial shot, and that building where the shooter was located, it is actually substantial distance from the stage. Obviously not a highly accurate sniper, but not a bad shot at all. When you look at the distance involved, he's way over here on the left, right?
Yeah, the red box.
Yeah, quite a distance from the crowd, from the area. It would have been those buildings right behind that would have been the ones of most concern to the Secret Service as they were surveying the area to prepare for the event. Obviously not paying enough attention, I guess, to that building way over there.
Yeah, that's still a clear line of sight that needed to be dealt
from the
with.
front. Yeah, from the front too.
Yeah, and like I seen the actual plan for this operation, maybe they felt that they had a clear enough line of sight to that building from their vantage point. I think it's a pretty weak excuse, and but these are the things that'll come out in the investigation of this, hopefully.
And that's another one of the conjectures, speculation, the conspiracy nuttiness is supposedly, I'm not even going to give the name, they claim was the Secret Service guy, had him in his sights, could have taken him out, but he was told to stand down until after the shot, then he was authorized to take him out. It's like, that's nowhere on the news. Now, real or not, I don't know. Again, not nuttiness we need to engage in right now.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I went to a couple of rallies in 2016 as well, and people say, well, why didn't people run? Why weren't they trying to get out of there? Once you're in, you aren't getting out again. You're locked in that secured area. So, I didn't go through a body search either, but it was pretty invasive considering I was known. So,
and again, well, the difference here is they could have run out of the risers, but that shot came from so far away. It's not like Sirhan, in the pantry there with a revolver that close, and those pops are clear gunshots. Those pops could have been easily confused, and indeed some eyewitnesses did give the usual, we thought it was fireworks thing, right? Because those pops came from so far away, it's not obvious they're gunshots.
Can I get you to comment on this, Kevin? Because some people are saying that, the Secret Service, they're not even changing, what they're doing because of this, blah, 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 blah. This was a news conference held yesterday, Secret Service, or I believe it was yesterday, or maybe it was earlier today. But anyway, they're talking about preparations for the Republican convention this coming week, next week. And indeed, they say they're not changing their plan, but, I'll let them explain.
I have not had any conversations regarding that, so I can't speak to that.
Is the Secret Service currently anticipating or currently planning to expand the perimeter?
We're not anticipating any changes to our current security footprint or plan.
Including allowing firearms into the SOC perimeter as it is right now?
anything in the soft perimeter is outside of our federal jurisdiction.
But why should former President Trump, his family, and the convention goers have confidence in the U.S. Secret Service to secure this site here over the next 4 days after his life was nearly taken yesterday in Pennsylvania?
So this event has been designated as a national special security event, which is the highest level of security for an event that can be designated by the government. So this is a whole of government approach. We've had an extensive planning process to include many organizations building out the operational security plans for any and all aspects of security related to this event.
Have you had the resources you need?
Yes, we are fully prepared and have a comprehensive security plan in place, and we're ready to go.
You know, what I'll comment on this is what I started with about this particular rally. The planning for this stuff, the operational plan, starts weeks ahead of time. They have surveilled the area. They have contacted outside law enforcement agencies, and we don't know what their operational plan is for this convention. So is there a need to change it or not? We don't know, and we won't know. So we can't really criticize them for saying they aren't going to make changes because we don't know what they would be changing.
I agree with you there, but to go back to the DEI thing, the problem here is you're only good as the weakest link. And we know the last 20 years plus, the deep state, the insider, the woke agenda, DEI dumbing down every iota thing in government. And that's the problem. We got a lot of weak links around that are the problem here, not the overall Secret Service as a whole.
Yeah.
Just like the FBI, right? A lot of good people in the FBI too. A lot of scumbags there too. Same with all the agencies.
Yeah. And we don't know the quality of the people they're using in these outside agencies. They're using who they're given. Like she says, that's out of federal jurisdiction if it's outside the secured area. One thing I was going to say earlier when I said I was at a couple of those Trump rallies is it surprised me that he doesn't have his own private security with him anymore. Maybe he does somewhere around there. Maybe the Secret Service has booted all of them out. But I remember at those rallies in 2016, he had Secret Service protection, but he also had private security. I'd have a little more confidence in them too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you want surround yourself with some former Navy SEALs or whatnot.
Yep.
Exactly. And right, again, there is a lot that goes into this, but the weak links, we don't know the weak links until something happens and it's identified.
So Kevin,
and then it's easy to point at it and say they failed. So,
and Kevin, what do you think about the RFK Jr. situation? I mean, they've been asking for Secret Service protection for many, many months. Denied. Do you think they'll give it to him now?
This is my personal opinion. I have no direct knowledge of this, no facts. I don't think they will give him protection. I think they have hamper his running as much as they could for a long time. And, even though they gave other lesser candidates Secret Service protection, they didn't give it to him. I see no reason they will give it to him now. The whole sexual harassment thing that's come out, this just all has the taste of, eliminating a candidate from it.
It has the taste of dog all over it.
Dog what? Are you making
Well, yeah.
Well, we know it's not goat. Again, Tom Brady's still walking around.
Come on, you guys know that he's got a real soft spot for canine. He's got a very sophisticated palate.
Yeah, that I don't know, Rick. That's a real pile of crap.
But in all seriousness, we all see why they need to give it to them. But
Yeah,
I agree with Kevin. They will not admit that it has to happen. They don't care. And if something happens, the blood of RFK Jr. will really, really, really be on their hands.
Oh,
Joe
man.
Brandon says Putin's giving a speech right now. I don't know.
Is he? Oh, I don't know.
I don't know too.
Well,
yeah, and
my
this whole
goodness.
thing complicates the Democrats, the Fascocrats party, as I call them, overall problem. I said before on your show, I gave it a 60-40 that Biden would stay. I think it's down or up. His chance of staying is 75-25 now, because this all is now additional deflection and distraction from their inner turmoil. He gets to hang on a little easier and longer, and the further this goes, the tougher it is to replace him. But I still say there's 25% chance, because we all know rules for thee, not them. They don't care about the law or the Constitution or the party rules or the state laws. They will ignore the state laws, just like happened in 2020.
Sorry, guys. I'm a little out of the mix here because I'm looking for something. So I'm gonna defer to
Yeah,
you. Talk. You guys talk.
I gandered for Trump being live right now. I don't find it. Somebody asked Joe Brandon what channel he's on, and he said he isn't on a channel. So I don't know how you find him on a channel if he's not on a channel.
Maybe there's a live stream of it somehow, somewhere.
Yeah, I don't find it on YouTube. So, but not saying it's not there.
Again, it's part of the whole. There's so much information that may just be made up out of whole cloth. Maybe it's a deep fake, like all the Biden falling up the stair videos.
Yeah, he says, "I'm sorry it was yesterday." So it's probably the official statement that you
mentioned before, right?
Yeah. So
yeah, deep fake, just like when Biden fell over on his bike. Fake, you didn't see it. The debate, it was a deep fake. You didn't see it live with your own eyes.
Of course, what we need to know is what's the motivation behind this this shooting. We still don't know. And here's a clip of one of the classmates of Thomas Crooks.
He was bullied almost every day.
In what way? Can you explain?
I mean, he would sit alone at lunch. I mean, he was just an outcast, and you know how kids are nowadays, so they're gonna see someone like that and they're gonna target him because they think it's funny or whatever. So it's the best way I can describe it. And it's honestly kind of sad. Like, I don't want to say this is what provoked it, but you never know.
Yeah. You said he was a loner?
Yeah. I want to say he was a loner more because he was quiet, but like he was just bullied. Like he was bullied so much.
This is high school.
Yeah.
What did they, do you remember at all what they said to him or called him?
No. He was just made fun of, I guess, for the way he dressed or his appearance.
Well, it goes back to the Columbine and all that, right? We try to poo-poo all the bullying stuff and at times pretend it ain't happening so they don't have to do anything about it. And in other cases, they go overboard and do too much about it.
And so, and Kevin, they
of life.
they uh, the investigators are saying they're treating it as a case of, or investigating it as domestic terrorism. So what do you think? Where's this going?
I don't know. You know, we will probably never know the true motives because they killed him. You know, we can come up with some ideas by talking to people like his high school classmate that remembers him being bullied 3 years ago. But somebody in the comments says that they don't remember what they called him, but he knows he was bullied. So, what car
Yeah,
he drove 5 years ago may play into it, but it may not.
unless
Labeling it
it's
as domestic terrorism, yeah, I mean, this would be typical as a federal offense, but all it really means in this case is they're going to be investigating if there was anyone else involved, what his motives may have been, but it's all going to be speculation.
But see,
Nothing
if
but
they're calling
speculation.
it domestic terrorism, if it's terrorism, that suggests that it's he's motivated by some radical political ideology or religious
the
reason,
pro
right?
Palestine group.
Something, right? So it's not just him being nuts. If it's terrorism, it's because he's motivated by something, but
Well, it's
at the same time,
speculated
and
he's pro Hamas terrorist.
I don't know. If he's just a lone wolf, then that's not terrorism.
I think there's
what, Kevin?
logic in what you're saying. Yeah.
What does them coming out to me? What that says is it's a political thing when they're calling it domestic terrorism, unless they come out with very specific evidence to support that. It's like they're already trying to spin this like it's white neo-Nazi something, or something like that. That's the way, radical right, far right, crazy guy. But he's shooting at Trump, which doesn't make sense. I don't know. I don't quite get it.
Unless if there's a
Well,
manifesto like the
Kevin?
trans shooter.
Yeah, well, let's go with the actual definition that the FBI uses for domestic terrorism. It is an act that is dangerous to human life or potentially destructive of critical infrastructure, key resources, and is a violation of the criminal laws of the United States. So, they go on and they say an act that should also appear to be intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population, to influence the policy of a government by intimidation, or affect the conduct of a government by mass destruction, assassination, or kidnapping. So you could throw this under the assassination thing. You could throw it under, was he doing it to intimidate Trump voters, anti-MAGA, so we could go with that definition with lots of different things, but reality is we don't know why they're calling it that.
At least not yet.
Yeah.
But what you said, Rick, about lone wolf makes sense, but that's a little bit of common sense in there. Like Kevin said, under the broad definition, they could call anything domestic terrorism if they want. But indeed, I mean, it's a political assassination, obviously meant to hopefully, you would think it's got. Why would you do it? You want to influence an election. I mean, that is in a way terrorism, to terrorize people into acting a
but the
different
way also
way.
that the choice of wording, the charges that are actually like if you come out and state publicly as an investigator or or as a law enforcement agency that this is terrorism, that gets into a different category than just somebody who's mentally unstable or whatever. And I've seen it so many times here in Canada where this particular crime is an act of terrorism, but this one, because it's committed by somebody from a different demographic group, that's not terrorism. So it depends, how they want to spin this stuff. There's, I think, prejudice and politics and policy, even unwritten policy that comes into play when these kind of investigations are conducted.
But let's keep in mind that they're investigating it as domestic terrorism. So they are taking into account the claims that, the deep state is behind it, the Biden administration's behind it, it's anti-MAGA people behind it, it's overzealous Biden supporters behind it. We don't know what the kids' was. So if they investigate it like that, it doesn't mean that in the end they're going to come out and say, yep, it was domestic terrorism. We don't know enough right now.
Right. We are still too early on, which is the reason I'm glad you invited me on, Rick. Because again, that Before It's News piece that I wrote, can we please stick with the facts? Or, as we have, if we're dealing in speculations and what ifs, and you can do that at times, it makes sense to do that at times, but you have to be clear that this is a speculation. There are no facts or evidence yet to back this up as assured reality.
And I was going to say,
far too many are going off the hook.
And I was going to say, that foreign governments will, foreign government agencies involved in propaganda and psyops and so on, they can use this kind of thing to sow seeds of doubt, cause disruption. But it seems to me they don't really need to do anything because the public has such an appetite for this stuff, for conspiracy theories, that people are doing it to themselves at this point. It's become this feedback loop of conspiracy theory that people just revel in. It's bizarre. It's so negative and destructive.
Yeah. Again, the QAnoners who want an honest search for truth and seeking evidence in like Pizzagate and that versus the wild speculation and idiocy of that one pizza parlor, as opposed to the QAnoners that just keep going.
Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think telling people how they're investigating it helps the cause at all. It plays into it. Is there some motivation behind it? I don't know. I'm not involved on the spin team on this one, but I guarantee there's a spin team on this one.
On all sides. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and with that being said, I'm thinking that this is another milestone in history that an event, a crime that a conspiracy maybe we may never know the truth simply because so many seeds of doubt have already been sown. So it won't matter what facts come out, what evidence is shown. They can show us everything, and people will just sit there and say, but they're still hiding something, or that's not true, blah, 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 blah. And because you've got all these different conspiracy theories circling around the truth, people never get to the core and find out what the truth really is, just like the JFK assassination, 9/11, and you name any of the others. But I'm afraid that we may already be there less than 24 hours later, and it's only taken 24 hours, and we'll never know the truth because people are so invested in the lies.
Yeah, the very first thing I heard about this yesterday for me, was that it was the CIA because Trump announced he was going to release the JFK files. Reality is even if Trump releases the JFK files, the conspiracy theory people won't believe it. They will say, well, it's not the total thing. It was fabricated before it was released. It just, it's an ugly cycle.
Yeah. Well, guys, it's getting up near to the top of the hour. I'll just throw it first to you, Joseph, and then to you, Kevin, for some final thoughts to wrap up tonight.
I think we, like we try to do on your show, try to deal level-headed. We did indeed go off into some speculations and what ifs. And again, that if you're trying to do it in an earnest and real fashion to try to dig to some reality, it's a good thing, as long as we did say this is speculation and separating it. The problem is the runaway trains on the internet of people just throwing things out there without any warning or even implying this is potentially hearsay. So and so said, I have no idea. I am letting you know I heard this. I may or may not believe it. This is speculation. No, they're putting this crap out as if a Secret Service guy came out and said this. There's no way to confirm or deny it, but it's out there as supposed fact, not speculation.
So, as a final thought, I'm actually going to answer Robert Brand here because this came up on a stream I was on earlier. The Simpsons prediction of this several years ago. You can go into the past and take anything and say, look, they predicted this. Reality is if you go back to Nostradamus and you read him, you can find that he predicted this too. If you dig into the Bible, you can find that the Bible probably predicted this. Get your heads out of this stuff and put it aside. Cartoon characters, the whole bit of, I made this statement then too. Cartoon characters are not factual beings. They're not live people. They're scripts written by somebody. And the answer I got was, well, the mainstream media, Hollywood, they communicate with each other. Biden proved it by saying they were going to target Trump. If you take Biden's statement about targeting Trump in context, he was talking about focusing on Trump during the campaign. It had nothing to do with shooting him. They do not have some secret code book that they use over television. Get this goofy stuff out of your minds. Look at the facts. If you want to speculate, do what we did here. We told you, this is speculation. This is my opinion. And,
No, you're spot on, Kevin. The Simpsons. Yeah. How many episodes have they had over the last, 20 plus years? They won't ever talk about all the wild speculations and potentials this could happen that didn't come true. It's only this proves that, not the 99 other things that didn't happen they wildly speculated could have that didn't come true.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
So there you go. And I'm going to point out, Rick, I know that you did not expect to have a show with Joseph and I on it where we agreed on everything.
No, I knew eventually you guys would come together and find common ground. I knew it. And as for predictions, I'm not going to make any more because the few that I have made always put me out on a limb, and I'm never comfortable being out there. All I can say is, gentlemen, thank you so much for participating in this conversation tonight. I think it has been worthwhile. We'll continue to cover this story, and around here, we'll keep on doing our best to stick to the facts and get everybody closer to the truth. And that will continue tomorrow night right here on the Maverick News Channel, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Catch y'all on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.